Now, from Times Square in New York, Barbara Walters.
Good evening and welcome to 2020. Well, it's hard to believe, but we are alive to witness the most monumental development in the history of mankind. That's true. Whoever thought we would be talking about cloning a human being, not in the distant future, but right now? Maybe you find that terrifying. I sure do. On the other hand, imagine a world where death can be cheated, where a lost child, a spouse, even a family pet can be given new life. This is no longer the fantasy of prophets or kooks. As science editor Michael Gillen will show you, this is the future, and the future is now.
Just a few years ago, scientists swore it was impossible to clone a mammal. Yet now, not only can they clone this, and this, and this, the race is on to clone this. It's a race to make history, and it took us to rural Quebec.
This is the biggest DNA replica in the world.
How tall is that?
I think it's 20 meters.
And why?
This man calls himself Rael. Don't be put off by his unusual look. He appears to be the front runner in this high-stakes competition, determined to do what's never been done before, clone a human being.
Our dream is to be able to introduce the baby to the public before Christmas 2001.
It's not clear who else is in the running. It's all so shrouded in secrecy.
It's a good specimen.
But Rael's main competitor seems to be an international group of scientists, led by this man, Dr. Panos Savos, at the Kentucky Center for Reproductive Medicine.
We are very serious, dedicated, highly motivated to get this thing done.
In recent weeks, the competition has been heating up, and obviously the winner will make front-page news. But the even bigger, mostly untold story is this. While everybody's waiting for that banner headline, scientists are already cloning body parts to replace those damaged by age or disease. It's an amazing development that promises to change our lives like nothing else in medical history. Just ask Gordy and Ann Rich. They'll tell you. Their daughter Kelly has Rett syndrome, a rare brain disorder that means she can't talk or take care of herself.
Yeah.
She's a 5-year-old child full of life, unable to connect with others.
When I look in her eyes, I see a beautiful little girl that I want to get to know. I want to know what she's about. I want to love to hear her voice and know what she thinks.
I want her to say, "Good night, Daddy," or "See you later." I think we both do. We know she's in there. We want to be able to communicate with her.
Row your boat. Yes, boat.
Kelly seemed perfectly normal when she was born, but then at about 12 months, she stopped developing properly.
It was very scary at first. It was terrifying to be told that you'd never know if your child was going to walk, talk, feed herself, dress herself. It was very scary.
There was no known cure, so we were given this diagnosis, which seemed like a life sentence.
But all that changed when Gordy discovered this lab in Worcester, Massachusetts, Advanced Cell Technology, or ACT. Inside this facility, scientists are actually growing human clones, but for ethical reasons deliberately stopped their growth at 14 days, which is just before the microscopic clones develop a spinal cord, the so-called primitive streak. ACT scientists wouldn't show us the clones for fear of reprisals from people who oppose this research. But here's why they're doing it. At 14 days, the cells of those embryonic clones are still generic. They haven't specialized yet. And that's precisely their value. Because they have the potential to become any kind of tissue, heart, liver, kidney, scientists want to use them to cure everything from Parkinson's to Alzheimer's. It's called therapeutic cloning.
I think what you saw with physics and with airplanes and with penicillin and the telephone, that's what you're going to see here in biology.
In little Kelly Rich's case, therapeutic cloning could conceivably create new brain cells to replace the defective ones she has now.
Thank you.
That's why last year, Gordy made a major decision. He sold a company he owned and invested in ACT's therapeutic cloning research, desperately hoping for a cure.
It will eventually come. I have no doubt about that. But will it come in time to help Kelly?
While Kelly's disease is complicated, look what therapeutic cloning is already doing. At Boston Children's Hospital, Dr. Anthony Atala is creating entire organs, like this human bladder made of real-life human bladder cells.
When will you be actually experimenting with this bladder on a real child, human child?
Hopefully within the next 18 months.
I flash 10, 20 years from now and I see you opening a door and I see brains and hearts and kidneys and livers. I mean, is that realistic to expect?
I think in the long-term future, I think it's very much a reality.
And what about going all the way? Cloning not just body parts, but an entire human being? ACT's Robert Lanza says it's very likely.
It sounds to me like what you're saying is it wouldn't surprise you if the announcement came out in 2 or 3 years that indeed a human had been cloned.
No.
It's that possible.
Yes.
Ironically, it would be very easy for Lanza himself to make it happen. All he'd have to do is implant one of ACT's embryonic human clones into a woman's womb and let it grow to term.
Are you ever tempted as a scientist to go beyond that 14-day limit to allow that little ball of cells to develop into something further?
No, absolutely not. I don't think any reputable scientist would consider that safe or ethical.
This is a replica of the UFO you saw.
Full-size replica. And
which brings us back to Rael.
Does this look like it looked like inside?
Approximately like that, because
there's a lot we haven't told you about him yet. For starters, he's the spiritual leader of a group who claims to have been contacted by alien scientists. Rael and his 50,000 followers, he claims, have a passionate religious commitment to cloning because they believe all life on Earth was cloned a long time ago by that race of alien scientists.
When I say all life on Earth, it means plants, animals, and men in their image. That's why we are here today. We are the fruit of this scientific experimentation.
Sounds far out, but again, don't dismiss this man. He's determined and appears to be well organized and well funded. And it's precisely because the Raelians are not constrained by conventional standards of science and society that they might just be the ones to pull it off, be the first to clone a human baby. Besides, it's not really that hard. 4 years ago, the cloning of Dolly proved that you don't need a whole lot of fancy equipment. All you do is this. Remove the DNA from an egg, then replace it with DNA from the skin cell of another animal, and implant it into a surrogate mother. The result? An exact duplicate of the animal whose DNA was used. So, Rael is pushing ahead. He's already lined up 50 women as surrogates to carry the clones to term, and created a company called Clonaid.
I'm teaching biochemistry in Hamilton College.
Clonaid's director is Brigitte Boisselier, a Raelian, and a chemist with 2 PhDs. She says Clonaid's up and running, complete with a staff of scientists. And funding? Boisselier says a wealthy couple who recently lost their infant son are willing to pay whatever it takes to have him cloned.
These parents have lost a child, and they will do anything they can to have this baby back, and I will help them.
Ultimately, Clonaid plans to sell its services at $100,000 per clone, Boisselier says. And there may be a huge demand out there, infertile couples like Nancy and Doug Dorner, for example.
I think that cloning at this point would be a good option because it would actually be one of us.
Clonaid also hopes to profit from people like Alan, who wishes to stay anonymous. He wants to clone his dying mother.
The gift for me would be to see her possibly in a new situation where she would really maybe thrive in terms of like a career or just travel.
Hard to believe that in just 4 years, cloning a human being has gone from impossible to possible and now to probable. Will the Raelians be the ones to pull it off? Well, even mainstream scientists are not dismissing them, like cloning expert Don Wolf of the Oregon Primate Research Center.
You know, it's not a slam dunk, but on the other side of the coin, it's not incredibly difficult to do. So you have to take them seriously.
More than inventing the wheel, making the A-bomb, or leaving the Earth, human cloning will arguably be the most significant scientific achievement in human history. The first time ever, our species will have a whole new way of perpetuating itself. Not by creating new babies, but by recreating old babies, over and over and over again.
I don't even have the words exactly. Michael, we haven't even talked about the ethics of all of this. Are there laws against cloning?
No, that's the amazing thing. Most people think that this is all illegal, and it isn't. In 4 states it's illegal, but in 46 states it's perfectly legal to do this. And the fact is that science is really outstripping the law. I could steal a strand of your hair right now, go back to my lab, and clone you in theory without your permission, without your ever knowing.
Nobody has to give permission?
No, nobody's figured it out in the legislature yet, how to pass laws to protect your rights when this technology comes to fruition.
You know, mind-boggling is the understatement of the year, of the century, probably, that this is going to come to pass.
I met with Dr. Boisselier, who is the scientific director, and she told me that in 2 weeks they're expecting to conceive the first human clone, implanted in a surrogate mother, and hoping for a pregnancy in March. Ready or not, the technology is on its way.
Heaven help us. Whether this is a blessing or a curse, life as we know it is never going to be the same again.
That's right.
Thank you, Michael. Well, I mean, when we come back, something so totally different. What are we worried about this for? But everybody wants to lose weight without dieting. We're going to show you how you can actually do that.